Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And then there's abortion. A difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue.
Bill Maher began his full-scale assault on the woke population about a year ago. Here's a spoiler too. He is not about to slow down. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, his most recent focus, has been spreading her activism message around the country, like a progressive GPS. Hit the subscribe button and let's get started. As usual.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid. Language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid.
This is how it all started. As is his reputation, Bill Maher asked the difficult, awkward questions. The subject of his attention this time was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her relentless pursuit of a far-left ideology that, let's face it, is losing support among Americans. Maher publicly questioned why someone would continue to promote a political philosophy that is so universally seen as divisive, poisonous, and unconnected. A sane person would stop, think, and perhaps even change direction. But AOC wouldn't. Not at all. She believes she is morally superior and has no qualms about imposing her Latinx vision on America, whether it is welcomed or not. Here's the worst part, though. Maher isn't done yet. He goes on to offer more than simply criticism. There is no room for spin or social media housekeeping, since it is a precise demolition and verbal beatdown. You'll want to capture every moment, I promise. It gets brutal at this point, so pay attention.
And there's abortion. A difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on, but they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people.
And Democrats choose to die on that hill, right there. The inability to specify exactly what a woman is. This wasn't even debatable 10 years ago. Everyone knew that women can conceive, get pregnant, and give birth. It wasn't philosophy, it was biology. The progressive overhaul followed. Men could suddenly be ladies. Gender became questionable and fluid, which made you a bigot. It did not sit well with Americans. They resisted. They posed simple, earnest queries, but were met with coastal echo chambers, elitist, snobby ivory towers, cancellations, and reprimanding. Lectures. A large portion of the nation just departed, while the left adhered to their new ideology. As a result, Democrats suffered one of their worst election defeats in recent memory. Voters were fed up with being told that the truth itself was offensive, not because they were mean or bigoted. Democrats lost credibility in addition to ballots, and when you keep pushing people into a corner, that's exactly what occurs. They eventually push back, and not in the manner you may anticipate.
And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election. A lot of that is because, in the name of achieving equity in schools, Democrats in deep blue cities have made it a mission to eliminate the advanced programs at which Asian kids
As if they had a political blank check, AOC and her party marched across the deep blue states. Unstoppable, indefinable, and untouchable. They believed they could impose any radical program because they were sure their supporters would support them no matter how extreme it was. However, they made a mistake. The stealthy uprising was not what they had expected. Once supporting voters abruptly and quickly changed their minds. What happened to them? Right to the Republican Party. Yes, exactly. The same group that AOC demonized for years. This was no slow drift. It was a seismic event in politics. Those Democratic strongholds and previous allies turned into detractors overnight. All of a sudden, they have severe fractures. The key question now is whether this is really a short-term setback for AOC or the beginning of the complete collapse of everything she has created. Stay put, since Maher's next move could make the difference.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer.
Now, don't overthink it if you've been wondering why Maher keeps saying things like, "my lawyer," and "their lawyer." This has nothing to do with judicial drama. It is the pinnacle of political drama. In reality, Maher is making a brutally obvious point. Instead of someone arguing on the opposing side, voters expect their elected officials to act as their advocates, defenders, and attorneys. The hammer, however, comes here. That memo appears to have been overlooked by AOC and her leftist allies. Rather than supporting the people, they have been lecturing, grandstanding, talking down to them, and promoting policies that make voters wonder, whose side are you even on? And other things. He isn't only pointing it out, he is presenting the case in a logical manner. He's exposing the growing discrepancy between what voters anticipate from these so-called legislators and what they actually provide, one punch at a time. The irony is that, despite her rhetoric supporting the underdog, AOC is beginning to resemble the person in the hot seat in the courts of public opinion. And trust me, Maher won't be kind when he makes his final point. The verdict is imminent and has the potential to rock the entire foundation, so pay attention.
A parent and wanted schools to reopen a lot sooner than they did after COVID shutdowns, or think maybe your kid is getting a bad education, partly because it's nearly impossible to fire a lousy teacher? Yeah, you're going to say, "Congratulations, teachers, you got yourself a good lawyer. The Democratic Party's always got your back, 100%. But I've noticed my kid is kind of an idiot. So I may be looking for new representation."
AOC and her progressive friends were successful in alienating not only Latino votes, and they touched a nerve with something much more basic: the consequences. And our educational system. Let's just say that this report card is blatantly failure-oriented. Policies that made it far more difficult to fire failed teachers were promoted a few years ago, with the Biden administration spearheading the effort and the far left supporting them. In theory, it seems admirable, doesn't it? In reality, it handcuffed school officials all throughout the country. The outcome was a decline in student performance. The average arithmetic score for 13-year-olds fell 9 points between 2020 and 2023, the largest decline in 50 years, according to the nation's report card. The teachers at the center of the 4-point decline in reading scores were protected like precious relics. Therefore, parents are left looking at their children's grades and wondering where it all went wrong, as Bernie Sanders recites the same tired class warfare slogans, and AOC uses buzzwords to energize crowds. This is a generational train crash, not merely a policy failure, which begs the crucial question: does the Sanders AOC wing have a chance to help the DNC recover with this record? Or are they going to lead the party straight into electoral and intellectual oblivion? The final exam may be Maher's next takedown, so stay tuned. They're not even close to passing, to give you a hint.
And Biden wants to cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in student debt. Okay, but the poorer 2/3 of American kids who don't get a college degree are going to say, why should the people who didn't go to college and make less money subsidize the people who did go and make more? You want me to chip in so some liberal arts college can build a bigger rock wall? You're not my lawyer.
I can't help but chuckle aloud sometimes when I take a step back and consider some of the measures that Democrats attempted but were unable to implement. And I'm not referring to small administrative errors. I'm referring to the kind of comic policy faceplants that would make for fantastic headlines if they weren't so tragically real. Bill Maher makes a very good point here, and you should give it your whole attention. Democrats must do more than just spout catchphrases and ride high on moral high ground if they truly hope to regain power. They must confront their past shortcomings. The crazy part comes next. Talk to the people they haven't spoken to in years. Sit down and listen to them instead of talking at them or assuming their problems from a climate-controlled office in Washington. DC? No judgment, no jargon. They lost them in the first place because they were speculating about what people needed based on polls and think tank assumptions. Maher is not advocating for them to sell out. According to him, they must get back in touch and regain their trust. Otherwise, the voters they sorely need have already left, and they are merely shouting into a blank echo chamber. There is a ticking clock. Now, the only question is whether they will awaken before the window permanently closes. Consider the entire police defunding fiasco. Everything was going well until large cities saw an increase in crime, at which point, even the most vocal supporters began to quietly retreat. Or the rent cancellation movement, which, although it may have sounded brilliant in a student residence hall, crumbled under the weight of fundamental economic facts. Furthermore, it seems that requiring kids to fulfill standards is now viewed as onerous, which is why there is a drive to do away with standardized testing. According to Maher, the Democrats appear to be playing how to lose the middle in 10 easy steps, because their loss is their victory. The worst part is that these same geniuses believe they should have another chance to lead the nation. This is the most ridiculous political theater. Furthermore, he will not allow them to leave stage left without being confronted.
And in 2020, Bernie Sanders said he would legalize marijuana on his first day as president, but that the business of selling pot would be awarded first to those who suffered most from the drug war. And you know what? I can't argue with that instinct. The drug war has been a horrendous instrument of prejudice and punishment for racial minorities, so it seems fair that they jump the line for weed franchises the way Indians did for casinos. But it's also what's holding up Republican support for legalizing weed nationally, which would be good for everybody. And these are the hard, practical choices the Democrats have to weigh.
Bill Maher did more than just make fun of Democrats. He displayed a mirror. The party has gotten so far off track that they hardly resemble the people they say they serve, from ignoring voters to distorting fundamental facts. Jokes about Maher may make people laugh, but they also expose flaws in message, policy, and basic common sense. Increasing denial will not give the Democrats any chance of a resurgence. Real listening, frank course correction, and a sobering reality check are all necessary. Because voters won't simply abandon them if they don't change course quickly. On their way out, they'll slam the door. That concludes the video for today. Please remember to use the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this article. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next.